Hello. Today I'm talking to a colleague of mine who I've worked with for many years, Peter Wakefield, a UK astrologer, and he's going to explain about a branch of astrology known as Esoteric Astrology, which uses different rulerships than Exoteric Astrology, or, if you like, the more conventional sort of astrology used for everyday or more mundane purposes. And esoteric astrology has been coming into its own since about 1900, isn't that right, Peter?
Yes. Esoteric astrology was first devised by the Theosophists in the 1930s. People like Alan Leo in the 1960s brought it to the fore. And then my own personal teacher, Dr. Douglas Baker, through his college at Claregate in North London,
yes,
in the 70s, introduced me to the subject because I felt it was very appropriate and fitting for me personally, because I was on a quest of truth, seeking truth both within myself and within other people. And it was very apparent early on to me that if you were becoming aware and your consciousness was evolving very quickly, the higher rulerships were more pertinent or appropriate.
By higher rulerships, you mean the ruling planets of the signs or the vibrations, don't you?
Well, vibration is everything. As you know, energy is everything. And when you're on the path of spiritual unfoldment, you are not only becoming available to differing levels of energy in the environment, yes, in the cosmos, but also in your consciousness, in the inner world. So, the higher rulerships...
Can you give us an example of what you mean?
Well, for example, Mars, which rules energy, has its...
And normally rules Aries in the exoteric.
That's right. Has its counterpart, or higher counterpart, of Pluto. So if you were, say Mars would be the spade of the gardener, disrupting the soil or making a hole in the soil, Pluto would be the seed. So they go hand in hand.
So are you saying that in the esoteric rulership, Pluto rules Aries? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh.
Pluto is the higher counterpart of Mars.
What would rule Aries?
It's like a higher octave in music.
Yes, I understand.
It's the same note, but at a higher octave.
Yes. What in the esoteric rulerships rules Aries, or am I looking at this?
Mercury.
Ah, why?
Aries rules the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury is the archetype of not only communication, but it's the messenger.
Yes.
And as you know, the brain is full of neural pathways.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And all the chemical messengers are sent from the brain around the body. So Mercury, that's one example of why Mercury would be symptomatic of rulership of Aries on the esoteric level. And Hermes, of course, was a messenger, and hormones are messengers.
Yes.
So there's all those connotations to do with Mercury, which are linked in with the brain.
Okay, the esoteric language of symbols and higher rulerships, like you say, is very useful as a healing code, isn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Relating to, say, the glandular system in the body.
Each of the endocrine, each of the endocrine glands in the body, which are the ductless glands, which are responsible for the suffusion of hormones directly into the bloodstream. Each of these endocrine glands have an alliance with a chakra in the subtle or etheric body.
Yes.
And when prana, or the vitality globule from the sunlight, enters the etheric body, it gravitates towards one of the centres in the subtle body, and each of the organs which are in alliance with the endocrine gland have connotations with each of the chakras centralize prana coming into the etheric body, and the prana is then circulated through and absorbed by the body, but also through the bloodstream, through these endocrine glands, as well as the hormones. So this prana has obvious healing property and is responsible for providing energy to the subtle or etheric body, because, as it says biblically, we do not live just by bread alone. The prana or vitality globule is the equivalent to the glucose molecule or sugar to the physical body. So it's just as important in the healing process. Is that what you were... Now, each of the chakras, for example, are ruled by signs of the zodiac. Like, for example, the base of the spine chakra would be the earth itself.
See, in exoteric astrology, we don't use the earth itself. This is what I mean. There is essential differences in esoteric and exoteric astrology, and people need to know why those differences really.
The reason why there are esoteric rulers is because they replace. It's all about differences in consciousness.
Yes.
And the more open you are to higher levels of vibration and resonance and energy, the more you are going to correlate with the archetypes at a higher level. And this is why it's important to be not only aware of this, but to be aware of what the archetypes mean. And this is one of the whole basis of behind astrology, is to give awareness and education to people of who they are.
But you see, esoteric astrology is working for people. It's like I always say, when they talk about does astrology work, but it's like, well, yes, even if I didn't know what the name for breathing was, I would still have to breathe, and this is the way we are influenced by astrology, whether we believe in it, whether we're aware of it or not. So from an astrologer's point of view, it's a system used. Esoteric astrology is a system used to diagnose, to help the client understand themselves more, isn't it? Or the deeper patterns within their physiological body as related to their emotional life.
It's all the process of knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And knowing what the purpose of your life is, which is more to do with the horoscope.
Yes.
The beauty about the horoscope is that it does give you an indication on all levels of what you should do with your energy, and how creative and expressive you are with it.
Yes, and I also think that the value, for me, from what I understand, the value of esoteric astrology is that it also is very, very useful as a tool or an aid to understanding health, and it enables people, if they want to know, to understand the reason or the purpose of disease or malady within the body.
Yes, and again, that's where the chakras and the subtle body come in.
Absolutely.
Esoteric astrology is for divination at all levels. It gives you an awareness, or helps you to gain an awareness of what archetypes are at play in your life and what stumbling blocks are there, indicated by the aspects in your horoscope, the squares and the oppositions and the T-squares and what have you.
Yeah, the patterns.
And the part of the healing process is having awareness of
why things are happening.
Why it's there.
Where you've inherited it from, because
that's
it
right.
looks at series of lifetimes, doesn't it?
It comes from previous lives,
yeah.
T-square situation.
Patterns, yes it does.
And the beauty of looking at things esoterically is it's always taking things to a higher and different level of meaning, because we're searching for meaning in everything. The meaning to existence, the meaning of why we're here on earth, etc.
Why we suffer.
Why we
can't progress. Why we keep falling over the same crack in the pavement.
Repetitive.
Yeah. Yes, repetitive, recurring behaviours. And I think that certainly in a health situation, if you want to look very deeply into your own health, there are layers and layers to be stripped off the everyday thinking and quite removed from the way the clinicians look at it. And to me, this is the value of what you do in Esoteric Astrology.
Everything, all arts and disciplines in the esoteric are towards people realising that the control of the mind is everything.
Yes.
Control of your own mind, that is,
and
by
your
yourself.
Emotion, probably.
Well, the first thing that helps is to realise that the body follows the mind and not vice versa.
That's right.
And once people realise that, then that is a massive step towards being in control of your own health.
Because energy follows thought.
Energy follows thought. All is energy, and thoughts are living things.
Absolutely, and especially in an electric universe.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. We'll conclude there. Esoteric Astrology in the Electric Universe. If you would like more information on what Peter does, you can email him at affinityhoroscopes@hotmail.com. He's involved in a project in Manchester called the Purple Circle Project. If you click the YouTube link, you will find his details and how to contact him on there. And that's all for today. Join us next time for more on the Electric Universe.